Okay, hello, hi. I'm William. You may be thinking, where's Bryn? I have to apologize. She's sick right now, so she's at home getting well, and I've stepped in here to take place of her, and I am so excited to be here to share and talk to you about aggressive behaviors. For those of you who know me and have seen me, maybe at our startup program, New Frontiers, or Max Impact, which are advanced training programs, hi, welcome to you. Good to have you here. Good to have you watching and listening to what we're going to talk about. For those people who this is the first time you're watching, welcome to you too. And let me just give you a brief introduction to myself. I'm a senior teacher, senior trainer here at the Autism Treatment Center of America. Been here for over 18 years, working with families and their children, and it's been the most amazing experience. I've also, too, had the experience of running a Sunrise program. I'm a Sunrise program father, and me and my wife, Bryn, we ran a program with Jade for a number of years. She was autistic, and she's fully recovered, young girl in school, just doing amazing. And so it's with great honor, great pleasure I feel to be here with you to help you with the particular challenges that you might have with your child, particularly their aggressive behaviors. Now, before we dive in to the main body of what I'm going to talk about and then into questions that you're going to have, I want to just explain a couple of things. Number one is, as I talk about children, I'm referring to children not only in the sense of young children, but I'm talking about all children. I'm talking about children whether they're 5, whether they're 10, whether they're 20, 30, 50. They are somebody's child. And so when I say child, I am talking about the full range. We just ran our advanced training program last week, and it was our Maximum Impact program. And it was so amazing to see a mother who was there for her son, still wanting to help him, still wanting the most for him, and he was 31 years old. So they're never too old to really help them and to help them develop and grow. So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to talk about too, before we start, is if you're going to be writing and sending us questions, make sure as you write your questions, you have this information in. Make sure you put your child's age when you send us a question. Also, too, when you do it, make sure you send enough information so that we're going to be able to answer your question as directly and as pointedly as we can. So if your child is somebody who pushes maybe a sibling, then look at that and tell us what happens beforehand, a few moments before, what's occurring before. Then tell us what happens, obviously, when the event occurs. Then tell us the situation afterwards, what happens afterwards, so we can fully understand the whole scope of what's going on, so I can best answer your questions. Okay, so you're going to send us in questions, send them up. Can't guarantee we're going to get to every single question, but as we answer questions, hopefully you'll hear a similar dynamic that's coming up, and you'll be able to use that information and apply it to your situation with your child. Because what we're going to talk about here is not rocket science. It is good old plain common sense. And when you hear it, you'll think, yeah, that makes sense. I can do that. It's easy. All right, so let's begin. Oh, one other thing too, with the questions, be honest with it and tell us the whole scope of what's going on, because then we'll be able to answer it more fully versus maybe leaving a little bit out here and there. All right, so just be as honest as you can. All right, so let's dive into talking about aggressive behaviors. Now, when we're talking about aggressive behaviors, we are talking about behaviors where a child might hit, might spit, might push another child, might pull hair, might bite. Those are the types of behaviors that we're talking about. Now, if your child is one of these children that does those types of behaviors, One of the first things to start to understand and see the value and the importance of is how you view this behavior. What do you think? What do you think about your child as they do this? Traditionally, and in most situations, people will look at a child who's doing this and think they're mean-spirited, or think they're a bad child, or think that they're just out to be mean and horrible. As if your child, if they come and let's say they bite you, they're thinking to themselves, oh, I want to bite mom, and I want to cause some physical pressure on her. I want her to feel the sensation of pain in her body, and then she'll have that sensation, and she'll feel unhappy about it. That's what I want to give her. I want to give her that experience. Now, that's one viewpoint on a child like that. They're just plain bad child and that's what they're trying to do. Clearly, we don't see it that way. We don't believe a child is out to do that. We believe, and this is our perspective as we look at a child who's doing this. Number one is they're doing the best they can. They have neurological challenges. The world is overwhelming, overstimulating for them. And so they're having a challenging time just making it through the day. Whether they are severely autistic or even if they're high functioning and Asperger's, it's very challenging for them. And so what they ultimately are wanting to do is use these types of behaviors to communicate to people. This is a communication, to see it as a communication. No different than if they were talking to you, no different if they were taking you by the hand and leading you to what they wanted. It is a communication. Now, I'm not denying it's not an extreme form of communication, because it is an extreme form of communication. But extreme measures are needed in extreme conditions, what your child considers extreme conditions. And it's a communication that really wakes people up and says, oh, what's happening? What's going on? Oh, you don't want this? Oh, we've got to change this? And people tend to wake up and listen and hone in to more of what they want when they use these behaviors. So it's to really see that your child's trying to communicate something that they want, something that they don't want, something that they want removed, something to be stopped. This is what they're doing. It's a communication, a form of communication. All right. So that's something to consider and think and know that that's what's going on for your child. It could also be a form of what we consider self-protection. Self-protection. If they act this way, then they're going to look after themselves in a particular way, which is, see, a lot of times what can happen with a child, especially with a younger child, is that because they're so small, their bodies tend to be moved without their permission. Their bodies can be acted on without their permission. How many times have you tried to put a sweater on and say, okay, let's put a sweater on, and it just goes right on, and they're not ready for it. You know that, let's say they're overwhelmed already, and it's a challenge, and they're honed in and sort of maybe exclusive, and so suddenly this can be very jarring to them. Or somebody comes over and wants to stick an object in their mouth, and you're in the best of intentions trying to clean their teeth, and yet they're just feeling like an object is being put in their mouth, or being made to put their shoes on, or whatever it might be. And so clearly they're screaming and shouting as a way to stop this happening. Just imagine for yourself, right now, as you sit there, as you're listening to me, somebody coming in and saying, okay, time for your bath, picks you up, strips you off, and puts you in the bath. I bet you'd be hitting them and screaming and shouting and punching them too. So clearly we would react that way. Then clearly with our child who has more challenges understanding the world around them, they're going to do the same too. So they're looking after themselves. Now, also too, it's a way to give your child a greater sense of control. If they're in an environment, let's say you take them to a party, or you have a group of friends around. Now, in this environment, this can be overwhelming, can be noisy. People are talking backwards and forth. It can be very confusing for your child. And so they might pull somebody's hair, or they might push. And then what happens? They are removed from the situation because it was too much for them anyway. And so they use this as a way to get out of this situation. So they're controlling the world around them. They are really doing the best they can to look after themselves. They would do it another way, they would do it. And so they're using extreme measures to get their message across. They're communicating. Now, some children might do these types of behaviors. They might bite. I've worked with children. I remember one particular child who bit me on the shoulder from a place of being excited, really enjoying the game. I had them up here, and as a small child, I could spin them around, got really excited, and bit me. I've been with other children older children, get really excited, and they just want to come over and hug you, and that's what they're trying to do, and it can hurt. And so you have to ask them not to squeeze so hard. But there's this sense of excitement. They have this sense of energy. And what they're trying to do is in some way handle the energy. And they're wanting the physical contact, thinking that that might help them. And so it could be coming from, okay, I have all this energy. I don't know what to do. What am I going to do with it? And off they go. And this is how they deal with it. And so knowing and looking at our child as seeing that they're doing this not because they're a bad child. They're not doing it because they're mean-spirited. The world's challenging enough for them. This is what they're doing to communicate and really, truly, truly trying to look after themselves in the best way they possibly can. All right? So that's the perspective to have when you look at your child. Now, a couple of things here with this when we think about this. We as mom and dad or the professional or the person in their lives can unwittingly encourage these types of behavior. For example, let's say your child pushes a sibling, pushes them over, and the sibling starts to cry or starts to whine or does something. You come in and you may hit your special child, might give them a tap. You may even just hold them and shake them or be a bit rough with them, saying, don't do that. So we're being physical on their body when we're trying to get them to do what we want. They were just trying to get their sibling to do something or to stop something or make something occur, and they were being physical. Then I come in as mom and dad or whoever, and then I'm physical. So I'm actually saying this is the way to deal with something when you're trying to get what you want, and it's a challenging thing to try and get. So be aware of that. Also, too, if you say, okay, I don't tap or slap my child, I don't give them a slap on the hand or on the butt, but you might do that with your other children. You might discipline them by giving them a slap on the hand or giving them a slap on the butt. Now, your child is watching this and seeing this and saying, hey, that's the way to communicate and really get what you want when it's not happening. So you may want to look at how you're disciplining your other children as a way to help your other child not take on and encourage those behaviors. There's something else too. When we come in and we deal with these situations with our children, we can tend to be a little frustrated, a little annoyed, a little bit maybe angry. And so what happens is we come in all flustered, our face is red, and our face is very animated in a kind of way. And then our child can be aware of this and say, wow, look at mom and dad. Look how animated they are. Actually, you're lighting up like a Christmas tree. And so what's happening is your child will say, wow, isn't that amazing? Let me see if I can make that happen again. So our very attitude can be so encouraging. But also, too, our attitude of frustration and annoyance makes us into a person who's in battle. We're in a battle, and we get into a control battle with our child. And our child, we know when people are trying to push us with an angry, frustrated attitude. We know it ourselves. We do this. We dig our heels in. We dig in our heels, we resist, and we carry on doing that behavior that we're trying to be forced to stop doing. Our children are no different in this way. So be aware your attitude is important. Okay? So that's something to be very aware of in yourself. Now let's talk about things you can do. All right? Let me just get a drink of water here. Now, here's what you do. Two things you can do. Very simple. Number one is attitude, 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 attitude. I can't express this enough. Attitude is the most fundamental thing you can do, is really focusing on being as calm and as relaxed and easy as you can. I'm not talking about the faking it, kind of, okay, I'm looking very, and coming in, I'm okay, stop, and yet we're so close to saying, stop doing that, because we're putting on an affect. We're talking about really truly looking at our children, saying they're doing the best they can. How can I help them? Now, for those who have Happiness is a Choice, I'd really encourage you to read that book again. Happiness is a Choice by Barry Neil Kaufman focuses and is a book just on the attitude and really helps you with particular shortcuts to finding an easy, relaxed attitude. Because when you're easy and relaxed, you're not lighting up like a Christmas tree. You're not encouraging your child. You're then more spontaneous and flexible to deal with the situation at hand. And if you're relaxed and easy in this way, you're more likely to do that. So whether it's Happiness is a Choice. There's also Sunrise, The Miracle Continues. That's the book, again, it was by Barry Neil Kaufman. It's about the first Sunrise program journey. Bears and Samaria started with the attitude. That's what led them to find and discover and create the Sunrise program as a way to help their child. So reading those two books would be fundamental in really helping you relax and say, okay, I don't have to light up. I don't have to get a head of steam on this. I know I want to help my child. Getting angry and frustrated isn't going to make it stop. You could just simply say, well, I've tried that, and I'm sure you have. It didn't change it. So now it's time to do something different. So looking at your attitude is very important, a very important way to do it. Is a very important step forward. Also, too, another attitudinal thing is, so you've got a challenge. Your child acts in an aggressive way. So you have this challenge in your life. You could say, oh no, I got this challenge. This is awful. This is terrible. What am I going to do? Or what you could do is say, I got this challenge. It's not going away right now. You know what? I'm excited about going out there and going and being with my child and helping them through this. I can do that. I can help them learn to communicate in a different way, in a more effective way. And so having that perspective will help you. Now, let's talk about techniques to do. The first technique you're going to want to do before you dive in is actually take a step back and become a detective. Be a detective on what will help your child. Be a detective on what is it they're trying to communicate. So you're going to want to, as I talked about when you phrase your questions to me, for when you send them in, you're going to want to look at the event, whether your child's pushing, biting, screaming, shouting, or pulling hair, whatever they're doing, look to what's happening beforehand. Find out what's going on. Think about it. Talk with your partner or somebody else who it happens to with. Discuss what happens before, because there's always something happening before. Just think about what happens when your child acts the way that you're trying to stop them from reacting. And then think about what is it you do afterwards. I'll give you an example. So we had a mother here who came to a startup program, our initial training into the Sunrise program. Now, you've got to imagine, she hasn't started her Sunrise program. She knows really nothing. And within this program, she's given all the tools to get her program started, what to do with her child's isming, what to do and how to encourage eye contact, how to encourage language, how to set up a learning environment, create volunteers. She's just given such a comprehensive understanding and a foundation to get rolling with her program. So she knew nothing. So she asked the question, what do I do? My child bites my arm. And she rolled up her sleeve and she had bruises all down her arm. Now, so I say, when does this happen? Well, he's there, he's in the living room and he's playing with his blocks. Okay, so I say, okay, tell me what you do before he actually tries to eat you or take a bite out of you. So she says, well, he's playing with the blocks and I love him and I really want to connect with him. So I come in and I've been told from other approaches that you really want to get in there and get into the game he's playing. try and interrupt a few things. So there I am, I'm in there, and I come over and I touch one of his blocks, because he's playing with these blocks, and he loves these letter blocks that he has. So I come over and I touch this letter blocks, and he pushes my hand away. I say, okay, what do you do then? Well, I kind of wait for a moment. I say, okay, I won't touch that block. Maybe I can touch this block over here. So I touch that one over there. And I say, what happens then? Oh, he pushes that one away again. I said, and then what do you do? Well, I sit and I'm kind of saying, okay, I got to get involved. I got to get involved in I got to maybe interrupt it a little bit. So I kind of take a block quickly and stack it on top of his. And then he pushes and he whines, and then he takes all his blocks and he turns around and he puts his back to me. So I'm sitting there, he's got his back to me, and I'm thinking, okay, now what do I do? Okay, got to get involved, got to get involved. This is what he's going to do. So she comes around the other side. And then what happens is she goes to touch his block. As soon as she goes to touch the block, he bites her. And then I say, well, what did you do then? And this time she's smiling too as we were talking about this. She says, well, I sit there and I'm like, okay, so I'm not going to touch his blocks. Well, what do I do? And then I said, well, what did you do? I kind of hang there for a few minutes, then I get up and go do something in the kitchen, because I don't know how to be with him because he doesn't want me there. And so that was the scenario that was set up. Obviously, we talked and we trained her during the program how to join and be there with her child so she can be there. But this was her scenario, and then she wanted to know what to do. So clearly, as you think about your situation with your child, what happens? What happens before? Your child is always giving small signs. I don't want this. I want that. I don't want this. I don't want that. They're giving these signs. And then what happens is you want to pick up on those signs and act and respond to those before your child escalates up to extreme communication, because we're not getting the message. All right? And so that's what you're wanting to do. Understand it first. Be a detective of it all. All right? So you want to look at those. Make sure also too, as you're being the detective, you really pin down what's the payoff. And all these situations have a payoff. They get a payoff for what they're doing. In this particular situation, what happened is the child wanted Mum to leave his toys alone. This was his world. It was a place he created some centeredness for himself. He wanted Mum to leave him alone, and you know what? It worked. It worked. So clearly looking for and trying to nail down the payoff with what happens. Now, it could also too, it could be in a situation where the payoff is child gets the food they want. They get the video they want. They get left alone. They get removed from the situation. Now, here's something to consider. You might be saying, well, I don't give the payoff. I don't do that. I don't act like that. William, honestly, I don't do that. Now, then somebody else is, because your child's continuing to use the behavior. Maybe it's your partner. Maybe it's happening at school with the teachers, with the aide. Maybe it's with your uncle. Maybe it's with another sibling. Who knows where it is? One example was, I was talking to this mother. She says, you know, when I have to put my child in the car and drop off my other children at school. Now, when I'm coming back, we pass a road that has McDonald's on. And we used to go to McDonald's. We don't go there anymore. And every time we pass this, my child kicks the back seat of the car and just kicks and says, McDonald's, 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 McDonald's. She said, but I never stop there. So I said, well, have you talked to your partner when they pick up your child? And then her face went flat and she says, oh, I didn't think of that. And when she asked her partner was supporting that type of behavior. Because initially he says, well, I didn't want to go, but then he started slamming on the back of the seat of the car, and then I'm driving it and I'm jerking forward like this. I'm like, okay, let's go to McDonald's to stop him. So there was the payoff. So there's a payoff somewhere occurring. If it's not with you, it's happening somewhere else. And what's important in trying to help your child move through this, and this is why running a Sunrise program is so essential, you're going to have control over most of the people that are going to come into your child's life, so you can train them all to approach your child in the same situation so that this type of behavior is worked through, and you encourage more language, greater types of communication that you and I use, or their neurotypical siblings use. All right, so someone's using it. Now, the other things you can do when, let's say, some of the times you're going to have to say no and set a boundary. When you say no and you set a boundary, don't be aware when you say no, and I probably encourage you not to use the word no, because when we say no, when people say no, there tends to be like, no, don't do that. We tend to have a lot of energy, like a frustration, annoyance, like hardness about it. You'd probably want to do something like this. So if your child's asking for some food, asking for the cookie, probably say, well, I can't give you the cookie, because the cookie, you know the cookie's not healthy for your body. Now what we're going to do, I have some rice cake. We can give you a rice cake instead. Or, you know what, we can't do that now, but later on we will do that. So you offer an alternative so that it's not a complete closed door, but actually you're saying, okay, I'm going to close this door and invite you to go down this way. All right, so that's something you can do. All right. Now, when you get and you see behaviors that you want your child to do, which are opposite to what they're doing that you want them to stop, whether it's being gentle with you, that's what you're wanting them to do, where they be rough with you, you want to so celebrate that. You want to so cheer that. You want to so, like, be really big, and say, yes, thank you for being sweet and gentle. Oh, that was so nice that you did that. You were so easy. Look at that. You're so gentle with your sister or with your brother. That's right. Look, yeah, that's her hair. You can be gentle with the hair. Oh, wow, that's so amazing. So you're celebrating when you get what you want. All right. So make sure you offer big celebrations. Now, 2, if there's a particular behavior that you have gotten to a real control battle with your child, and they're screaming and shouting, and they're hitting and they're biting, then for this moment in time, maybe you take a step back, and maybe you stop brushing their teeth for a few days. All right, or you stop trying to get them to do the particular thing you want them to do. Like, back off, give them control, so that then, okay, you can regroup, think about how you're going to do it. Now, if you have a sunrise program playroom, I'm going to use the example of brushing teeth. Let's say your child bites and hits and slaps and pinches when you go to brush teeth. If you have a playroom, then you can bring the toothbrush in, and you can have fun all day long, showing your child the toothbrush, showing them that they have control. If they push it away, you say no. You can clean your teeth. You can clean everybody else's teeth. You can brush your hair with it, do your eyebrows with it. You can have the greatest fun in the playroom as you present the toothbrush. So back off and present it in fun ways where you can give your child control. And also, too, where you give a chance to sort of sit, reflect, and just relax a little bit with your attitude, because that's going to make a difference. And then, particular things. Let's say your child is wanting to bite you, and they're coming in, and they go to bite. A couple of things you can do, which is, let's say they come in and they bite, like this. Now, most people will yank their hand away, but what happens is that the teeth are locked down. What you want to do is push into the mouth and roll the hand out. Obviously in the most gentlest way you possibly can. That's what you're going to want to do. And then if you have a chew toy, and there's some great chew toys that you can buy, say, oh, if you want to bite here, you can bite this toy. Or if you want to squeeze, hey, you can squeeze this big ball. Come on, let's squeeze this big ball. They're coming in trying to squeeze you. Or if you want to hit something, hey, we can hit this drum. Come on, let's hit this drum. Boom, 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 boom. So I'm offering them and channeling this energy into a way that's going to be useful and is going to be helpful for them. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm also, too, if I have a younger child, and they come in and maybe they're wanting to hit me, maybe I can offer them some squeezes. A lot of times when a child has intense energy, when they're trying to deal with a boundary that's being set, they'll come in and hit. If you squeeze them on the hands or squeeze them on the head, if they permit you to, but don't go after them and try and make it happen if they don't want to, because you're just going to get more hit, more scratched. Alright, so just allow yourself to offer it. If they don't want it, that's fair enough. But you, with a younger child, you can do that. With an older child, if they're doing this, they're wanting to hit you, it's just always look after yourself, your child's safety, your safety. So if it means you gotta leave the playroom or the focus room or leave the room you're in, then leave the room, give them some space. When you step outside the door, think about, what did you just do? What were the preceding events that led up to your child acting that way? Take a breath, relax a little bit, and maybe go back in 15 minutes, and don't do the same thing you just did. Alright? Think maybe you're at more of a distance, being calm or being more user-friendly, just being there and looking at them and seeing that they're doing the best that they can. Alright, so you can also too, with some children, maybe you have a child who's in between in terms of big and small, you can get a ball and put it in between you and them. But the idea is not to go, oh no, don't hit me, no, be gentle, like this. Then it's fun. Your child's like hitting you and you're like, it's like being at the circus. So the idea is to be calm. I remember working with one particular child. I come in, I didn't understand what they wanted. I was trying to figure it out. And this child just kept trying to bite me, trying to scratch me, trying to kick me, trying to pinch me. And they were 8 years old, 9 years old, really just coming in. And I was in the focus room with them. And it was beautiful because we were in this room. It was just me and them. I was excited to really help them and show them that this communication did not work. So I was there, and I was just gently putting my hands out and saying, and talking to them and saying, hey, I love you. Hey, I care for you. This isn't going to work. I don't understand what you want. There's a different way we can do this. This went on for 45 minutes. 45 minutes. And I just kept doing that. And as I was talking to the child, I was also talking to the child, but I was also talking to myself. Centering myself and keeping myself centered and saying, this is okay. This is okay. We can work this through. I'm going to help you work this through here because it's going to be more challenging working this through in the supermarket, on the street, in the park. We can do it. We have all the time in the world. I love you. We're going to get through this. And so after 45 minutes, he slowly wound himself down, and then he started to get into his exclusive behavior. Never did quite work out what he wanted. And then eventually we went on at some point and we got into an interaction and we played together. So part of it is your attitude, looking after yourself, looking after your child in the best possible way. All right. And now, part of also too, big picture, and then I'm going to go to questions. So bear with me. Is here's the deal. Is you're going to help your child with these unique situations. But what's going to also help them in the greatest sense is to run a sunrise program if you're not already running a sunrise program with your child. Run a sunrise program, because if you can help your child change their social fabric so they can understand the greater degrees of connecting and relating and relationship with another person, if they can understand that and comprehend and then see there's a give and take and they're more flexible and spontaneous, they're going to handle these boundaries more easily. So I would encourage you to continue to run your program and to then obviously deal with these unique situations in the way we talked about. All right?